Hey, what is good, y'all? So this is week 12 NFL Power Rankings. This is after Monday Night Football, where the Rams beat the Buccaneers. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So basically, what this is I'm going to go from last to first. I'll give you, a quick breakdown of the team, why they're in the position that they are, and yeah, let's get into it. So first up, obviously we have, the New York Jets. They're 0 what, 10, 0 11, some crazy like that. They haven't won at all. Is what I'm trying to say here. Easily the worst team in the NFL right now. There was one thing I would like to say though, and it happens every year. There's always a really bad team. Okay, and people are always like, "Oh, do you think Alabama could beat them in a game? Oh, do you think Clemson could beat them in a game?" No, okay, that would not happen. These are grown 28, 29-year-old men playing against 18 and 19-year-olds, okay? If that were to happen, it would be a nightmare. We would see like 66 to 6 or something like that. All right. So let's not Alabama's a very good team, but let's not, overhype this. Next up, you got the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, Gardner Minshew got injured. They'll likely draft a quarterback this offseason. Um, Not much more about that. James Robinson, very good guy. Highly recommend you pick him up in fantasy if he's not already, been grabbed. I did. He's been giving me great production. Other than that, nothing really notable about this team, to be completely honest, and not New York Jets level bad, but they're still pretty bad. Um, I'd say the most interesting question about this team is what's going to happen to Gardner Minshew and just what happens this offseason in terms of, the draft. So then, next up, I'm going to have the Cincinnati Bengals. And, it sucks for them because they've looked very promising. Joe Burrow, he's been doing extremely well. However, he tore his ACL and MCL, so hopefully he gets, healthy soon because he is very good. He's been putting up lots of yards, not as many touchdowns, but he's been putting up a ton of yards, 300, 400-yard games, which is pretty impressive for a rookie, especially in the situation that he is. And it looked like AJ Green was just getting warmed up too, which is very disappointing. But yeah, I got the Bengals there at number 30. So next up at number 29, I've got the Houston Texans, right? And these guys, they just beat the Patriots, yes. But at the same time, they're still pretty bad, okay? Um, they don't appear like a well-run franchise at all after, the whole DeAndre Hopkins fiasco. Um, there are other teams that could potentially fill the spot and probably will sooner or later, including the Cowboys, Eagles, any of those guys. They're all, contenders for this 29 spot. But next up at 28, I'm going to have to go with the Dallas Cowboys, all right? And this was a tricky one. So Texas is not looking too good this year. But basically, the Cowboys lost their starting quarterback for the season in Dak Prescott, right? I mean, they're starting a quarterback named Ben, and his last name is not Roethlisberger, so you know how it's going to go. It's not going good for them. CeeDee Lamb, he lost any, chemistry he might have had as soon as Dak went down. Same with Amari Cooper. Just the entire roster. It's really a situation that sucks. I mean, Zeke hasn't been putting up the same numbers that we're used to him seeing. And it's just not a good situation for them, quite honestly. It sucks for them. They were looking, better this year, at least in position to win the NFC East, which isn't saying much, but sometimes that's just life. So the next up, you know, this was tricky. This is a tricky one for sure. There were two teams that I feel could go here, but I'm going to have to go with the Los Angeles Chargers here at number 27. All right. Justin Herbert has looked fantastic ever since he got, put in. Throwing for tons of yards, tons of touchdowns. He's been making some pretty difficult throws. I watched one or two of his games. Oh my lord, that man was fitting them in some tight, tight holes right there. Um, yeah, great throws. Not a very good team. They do have a problem with, losing close games, which I'd totally like to see them address in some form. Um, but yeah, number 26, I have the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, at 27, I have the Los Angeles Chargers. At 26, I have the Washington Redskins. Um, there's not too much to say about this team. Their starting quarterback, Kyle Allen, got injured, and then Dwayne Haskins got benched, and Alex Smith is starting again, which is great for him. I mean, everyone in the NFL is an Alex Smith fan, right? But other than that, they really don't have too many, great young, or not great young dudes, but great older dudes, great guys that are like trying to contend for a championship, which makes sense. I mean, I think a big question for the Redskins football team, Washington football team, not allowed to say Redskins anymore. I think a big question for the Washington football team is if they draft a quarterback this offseason. Because, the whole Dwayne Haskins situation, it's interesting for sure. The whole question of why quarterbacks fail is interesting to me personally, at least. I do have a video on that coming out soon, so make sure to like and subscribe. Like this video and subscribe to the channel with notifications on so you know when that comes out. Anyways, now that that's over, yeah, not much else to say about Washington. They've got a great defender in Chase Young, but just a team, So next up at number 25, I'm going to have to go with the Philadelphia Eagles here. The whole NFC East is kind of pathetic, honestly, to be quite honest. I'm just going with the Eagles here. Carson Wentz has looked awful. I really don't know what's up with that because when healthy, he was a beast a couple years ago, so just kind of questionable. Just the team as a whole has deteriorated very badly. Sad thing is they're still in playoff contention in the NFC East. But yeah, what can you say? So then next up, I'm going to have to go with the New York Giants at 24, right? So Daniel Jones, he's been looking, he's been looking aight. I'm going to give him that. Not my favorite cornerback, not the best cornerback in the league at all, but he's still been doing decently, okay? If Saquon was, not injured this year, first off, I would probably be undefeated in fantasy. But that's a story for another day. And second off, I think the Giants would be doing a lot better, especially with, the division they play in. But, I mean, there's not really much to say about them. They're just not a great football team. They're only in contention for the playoffs because they play in the NFC East. I mean, that's just life sometimes. So, next up at number 23, I'm going to have to go with the Atlanta Falcons. So they've been doing much better since they fired their head coach. Dan Quinn was his name, I believe, something like that. Matt Ryan, he's getting old. He's not the, MVP level player he used to be. But he's still, a decent quarterback. Julio, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Making some very good catches. One of the best. No, he is the best route runner in the league. I will for sure say that right now. Todd Gurley, he's playing for him. But the defense, man, it's just not there. And they've made improvements. That is for sure. They've made improvements ever since they fired Dan Quinn. But the losing close games, the losing the leads at this point, it's just kind of... It's not even funny. It's just kind of sad to me at this point. Like, come on now, y'all. You can do better than this. So next up at number 22, I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers here. Okay? And this is an interesting one. But just the injury situation in San Francisco, it's just brutal right now, Everybody, and I literally mean, like, literally everybody is just getting injured. So, yeah, that's about it for San Francisco. It's a season of, what ifs, what might have happened, But, with everyone injured, they can't really do anything. So then at number 21, I'm going to have to go with the Detroit Lions here. And they've made improvements for sure. Matthew Stafford and Kenny Galladay might be the most underrated wide receiver quarterback connection in the league. And if Matthew Stafford played for any other team, I'm willing to bet he would have a Super Bowl at this point. But the truth of the matter is, the Detroit Lions are just mediocre. And it means they're not going to get a great draft pick. It means they'll, it is what it is if you're a Detroit fan. If you are a Detroit fan and you have been for this long, I applaud you. You are a good person. So next up at number 20, I decided to go with the Denver Broncos in this situation, okay? Now that Drew Lock is back and healthy, they're looking very good. Drew Lock is looking like a very good quarterback. Sometimes it is what it is. I mean, the Broncos, there's not a ton to say about them. I mean, they've just done all right so far. I mean, they holding on. That is for sure. So then, At number 19, this was a tricky one. It was between two teams once again, but I decided to go with the Chicago Bears. Um, they've looked better ever since Nick Foles got put into the offense. Um, Mitch Trubisky benching him was probably the greatest decision they've ever made. Khalil Mack is still on the team. You don't hear as much about him as you used to, but he's still there, still doing good. Um, yeah, really not much to say. Allen Robinson, very good wide receiver, but not a ton about him. Just once again, another one of those teams that's just kind of doing enough. So next up at number 18, I decided to go with the Carolina Panthers here, and honestly, you could probably switch them with the Chicago Bears. Um, I will say though, I consider this season, in terms of what they could have accomplished, a win for Carolina. Right? I thought, and this was just my opinion, but I thought that they'd be in contention for the number one overall pick. But they have surprised me. And, despite the fact that Christian McCaffrey's been injured, Mike Davis has stepped up very well. He's doing very good when he was injured, and I'm assuming he will do good once again now that McCaffrey's injured. Um, I'd consider the season a win for the Panthers. I thought they'd be in contention for Trevor, but they have done much better than I anticipated them to. Um, at number 17, and this one, it hurts me to say this as a Patriots fan, but the New England Patriots. And remember, this is power rankings, y'all. This isn't necessarily, who has the best record. Just want to remind you people of that. So the Patriots, this is not the Tom Brady Patriots. This is the Cam Newton Patriots, which means, sometimes it just is what it is. Honestly, not too much to say about this team. I'm assuming they draft a quarterback, but hey, who knows? They might decide to roll with the GOAT himself, Jarrett Stidham. Next up, this was a tricky one for me. I decided to go with the Minnesota Vikings. Kirk Cousins, who decided to, it's Kirk Cousins. I really don't have anything to say about him. I mean, after trading Stephon Diggs, I'm surprised he's still, doing this well, but Adam Thielen has just stepped up along with Dalvin Cook, who is probably the best running back you could, have right now in fantasy. Yeah, great offense at the very least, or not great, but capable offense, I guess. It's just another one of those, all right teams. They're just doing enough. So, next up at number 15, I decided to go with the Cleveland Browns here. Despite the fact that Odell Beckham Jr. is injured, despite the fact that they have Baker Mayfield, who might be the most inconsistent guy as their quarterback, the Browns are not doing awful at all. They are doing pretty good. They got Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb in the backfield. That's pretty good running back backfield right there. And yeah, it's the Browns. It seems to me at least when the Browns are hyped up, they do awful. And when the Browns are not hyped up, they do pretty good. Baker stepped up his game. So, next up, and this one, I thought about this one for a while. I'm not going to lie. But I decided to go with, at number 14, the one, the only Arizona Cardinals, all right? And the reason I say this is, if they played in another division, besides the NFC West, which is the best division in football right now, I could see the Cardinals doing much, much better, right? But they play in the NFC West, which is the best division in football. There's no, debate about that. Probably the most exciting offense in the game right now with Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. You've seen Kyler Murray smile when DeAndre Hopkins gets open. It's fun to watch. And the lack of a defense will hurt them if they make the playoffs. But that's about it. So then, at number 13, I got the Miami Dolphins, right? The Miami Dolphins, and this was a tricky one, too, because the Miami Dolphins, they had that whole situation where they benched Tua to put in Fitzpatrick for the end quarter of the game, and I'm not entirely sure what was up with that. I've seen rumors that it could have been possibly injury related. I've heard that it was performance based. My running theory is that the game was, they looked over, Tua was taking a beating that game. They decided to save the face of the franchise and just put in Fitzpatrick. But yeah, that's at number 13. I got the Miami Dolphins. At number 12, we have the one, the only, the Baltimore Ravens, right? And this is a surprise to many people, including me. I thought the Ravens would be the team to beat. But once you get tape on a player, I've said this before. Once you get tape on the player and you figure out how to beat him, that's what decides who is truly great. I mean, look at Patrick Mahomes. Teams have tape on him, but they still haven't, figured out a surefire way to stop him. But Lamar Jackson has regressed a ton. Not the player he was last season. They figured out how to beat him, which is quite simple in hindsight. You just rush two, leave a small guy or two behind to watch for Lamar. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, make him beat you in the pass because he's not great there. So next up, number 11, Los Angeles Rams. Right? Or it's not the Los Angeles Rams. It's the Vegas Rams at this point. Is it the Vegas Rams? No, it's the Raiders. I don't know what I'm talking about, y'all, in case you can't tell. Just beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. I literally just, saw the end result of that game. Jared Goff is doing very well. The defense, Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, that is an amazing combo right there. Great team. Once again, they play in the NFC West. If they played in another division, I could definitely see them being the division leaders. At number 10, we have the one, the only, Buffalo Bills. So, Buffalo has been a confusing team to say the least. The majority of their games have been close. And although, people have said that, the Buffalo Bills were in the lead for most of the game, that doesn't excuse you taking your foot off the gas pedal at all. And, they lost to the Titans. They lost to the Chiefs. And when they've lost hard, right? They have not, had these close, down to a field goal, potential touchdown losses. The one exception to that is obviously the Arizona Cardinals game. But the Bills, they're just looking all right. Did not play this week, but we will see what happens next week. Number 9, I've got the one, the only, the Las Vegas Raiders. Looking much improved from last season. The ability to beat the Chiefs has probably, shot them up a spot or two, in my opinion at least. Because that's a very valuable skill as being the only team the Chiefs have lost to and being able to keep game 2 close. That's very good for them. Derek Carr is playing very good. I think some people just kind of forget about Derek Carr. He's a very forgettable person. I don't mean that in a bad way. He just kind of does his thing, not an MVP, but it's not, awful by any means. So, yeah, Raiders at number 9. Number 8, we have the Seattle Seahawks, all right? So, Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson's been doing pretty good. DK Metcalf is looking very good player right now. Now, one issue with the Seahawks is they don't have an amazing defense. This is not the Legion of Boom defense anymore. This is, just the defense, They kind of rely on the offense, which is going to be an issue, especially when they run into, the high-powered offenses of the NFC. Number 7, I have the Colts, right? The Colts, they've done decently. Phillip Rivers, he is not what he used to be, but then again, he's just doing enough. They have the best kicker in the NFL in Rodrigo Blankenship. And yeah, not much to say about the Colts. They've just been doing all right. So, at number 6, I'm going to have the Tennessee Titans, right? They've had some very good wins. If it wasn't for that whole, confusing COVID situation at the beginning, it's just, a confusing thing for the Titans. Derrick Henry's looking very good. Ryan Tannehill is looking very good. Yeah, not really a ton to say about the Titans. A.J. Brown, he's a pretty good wide receiver. But other than that, nothing notable about the Titans. So, that's number 6. Number 5, I'm going to have to go with the Green Bay Packers, right? Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams is the best quarterback wide receiver duo in the league right now. Aaron Jones is looking amazing. They're a good team, and the what if question, is obviously what if they had drafted, an offensive player that's not a quarterback, or really any player that isn't a quarterback with that pick last year, instead of taking Jordan Love. Um, I have a feeling that's a question we'll be asking ourselves for a while. But yeah, let's move on. So number 4, I have Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? Coming off a loss to the Rams on Monday Night Football, you know, um, kind of surprised their offense is not doing better with, Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski. I mean, I know it's going to take time for them to get adjusted, but I mean, we're practically at the playoffs at this point. I mean, we'll see what happens. Number 3, the New Orleans Saints. Now, despite the fact that they have Taysom Hill in as their starting quarterback, despite the fact that Michael Thomas has basically not played at all, they are still doing very well. Alvin Kamara is doing very well. I doubted Taysom Hill as the starting quarterback. Not gonna lie, I thought Jameis would be better, but I mean, so far, Taysom Hill has worked out for the Saints. So number 2, and I'd like to remind you all, this is not a ranking off win loss. This is a ranking off who I think is legitimately the best team in the NFL right now. At number 2, I've got the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I know I'm gonna get a bunch of mad Steelers fans for this, but quite honestly, the Chiefs are the better team. I think the Steelers will secure the 1 seed this season for sure. But I think, the Chiefs, they have a much more dynamic quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. They have more weapons than Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is an amazing running back. Won me my fantasy game this week. Le'Veon Bell, I mean, we don't know what was happening with him. He's on the Chiefs now. They gave him another weapon. That's why I have the Chiefs at 1 seed over the freaking Pittsburgh Steelers. Juju Smith-Schuster, he's a personality more than a player. I've said that before and I'll say that again. I personally don't think he's the most amazing guy, but hey, Chase Claypool, amazing season for him. Ben Roethlisberger, considering he was injured for all of last year, he's doing very good. On defense, TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick, great team. Honestly, great all-around team. But at this point, the Chiefs are still the team to beat. So, yeah, that's it for my NFL power rankings. I'm going to have to ask you all to like the video if enjoyed the video. And subscribe to my channel. I make, daily sports content at this point, NBA, NFL. That's really it. Oh, college sports, but yeah, So yeah, like the channel, gosh darn. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below if you think I'm amazing, the next Stephen A. If you think I'm crazy. Thanks for watching, y'all. Have a wonderful day.